right. Hello and welcome to the Specialty Matcha Podcast. My name is Ryan. This is my co-host Zongjun,
Hello, hello.
and we're the co-founders of Senko Matcha Products.
Yeah, we launched this podcast to discuss our learning journey in matcha, share startup stories, and interview experts. And today we are happy to have Bryan from Matsu Matcha.
Welcome,
Hello,
Brian.
hey everyone. Hey, so happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Could you give everyone a little background, both on yourself and the Matsu Matcha brand? Hello, Ryan from the future here. This episode was recorded a few months ago, but as of the publishing of this recording, Matsu Matcha has officially launched. So we've linked their website and socials in the show notes below. Thanks.
We are getting very close to the launch and I'm super excited about it. But just some information about myself. I'm a dadpreneur, so basically run a company currently. I'm running a digital advertising agency that focuses on performance advertising and serves clients across multiple different industries. And we have worked with clients like Google, WeWork, like Xfizz, and a couple of F&B brands in Singapore as well. And the specialty is running and targeting premium customer segments in APAC and maximizing their revenue for them. So that is my core gig, my core hustle right now. And this is the main reason why Matsu Matcha is being delayed so much in terms of its launch. And by being a dadpreneur, I am a father of two kids, 2 and 4. So yeah, as you can tell, there's a lot going on right now in my life. But I feel that it's high time that I kind of chase my passion and do what I really love to do, which is matcha.
What got you inspired to start a matcha brand? I know you were a pretty prolific matcha consumer, consuming a lot of competition grade tea. And we were just talking before this recording about learning and going to these tea houses in Bangkok. I noticed a lot of at least on your Instagram feed, a lot of very rigorous tasting notes in changing different things in different proportions and talking about the outcome. So what's your matcha origin story and journey been like to lead you to founding Matsu?
So my journey probably started 8 years or more ago with like matcha desserts and matcha parfaits and matcha soft serves and maybe also like some matcha bakes. So that was like my entry into matcha. And I think pretty much for a lot of matcha consumers as well, it's all through desserts.
Mhm.
I mean, it's very rarely that they start off with ushucha or koicha because it's, I would say, probably an acquired taste like after a while. Yeah, and matcha parfait was like my comfort food when I was really stressed up at work and in life. So that was like my entry point. And I then went on to try matcha lattes. So my experience with matcha have always been in retail and shopping malls and cafes, and also like home-based bakeries in Singapore. And then gradually matcha became more popular in Singapore. And then I started to buy ceremonial matcha, not knowing what each of the description means, and just simply took in what was marketed as like good matcha in Singapore. And yeah, I think maybe even like in 2017, 2018, matcha marketed in Singapore as 100% first flush is supposed to be considered like good quality matcha. But then, as we know, like now that we are in the industry, it's I mean, first flush matcha is like the bare minimum for like ceremonial
Yeah.
grades. So so I think there is a big gap like in the consumer knowledge in how matcha is supposed to taste like, at least now in retrospect. Yeah, then after that I bought as many matcha powder as I could in retail wherever I go, and especially Japan as well. And I would drink, experiment. And then about 2 to 3 years, somewhere maybe like for about 2 to 3 years, maybe 5 to 6 years ago, I was trying really hard to get like the perfect foaming for matcha after seeing a lot of matcha influencers and seeing a lot of like nice foaming videos and pictures. I was trying to get that for myself. And I was really experimenting a lot. And slowly through experimentations and trying, I figure out how. And I kind of like am quite stubborn. I didn't really want to use like measuring apparatus. I didn't want to use like thermometers to measure the temperature of the water. I kind of just like to play with it naturally, like straight from my water dispenser. And I don't use like mineral water. I mean, I know filtered water is bad taste, but yeah, it's the easiest way to do it. So I kind of like do it naturally, and I enjoy like figuring out how to make matcha using my own quirks and my own ways. Yeah, but I also kind of wanted to mention firsthand that I'm not trained in traditional tea ceremonies. So I try to call myself like a modern matcha fanatic, but as much as I can, I try to embody the feelings, the intentions, and also the philosophies of like traditional tea ceremonies when I make my matcha. So as I drank more and more matcha, I started to recognize the flavor of umami profile. And I also realized that the more umami a matcha is, it also means higher quality. Because sometimes I love matcha so much, I tend to overdose on caffeine and my body will show signs of rejection. But I also realized that the higher the quality the matcha is, the more I'm able to intake and enjoy. So then this changed my perception of matcha and realized that, like high quality matcha is not just purely in taste, but it also has significant health benefits and it changes like significant changes that it can do to your body, like for the high quality matcha.
For sure.
Very cool.
I've noticed too that
Mm.
the high umami matcha makes me feel better. I don't know if it's just more L-theanine, a better sense of wellness compared to, less umami forward matcha, but I feel great after consuming a really umami heavy matcha. It's I
Yeah.
think that's associations that led to me like developing a preference for umami taste.
Yeah, I kind of believe that it is the L-theanine, like because when there is more days of shading, whether or not it is Honzu or like the artificial material used for the shading technique, it kind of produces more L-theanine and that produces more calmness and it balances out the spike in alertness from the caffeine.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Just out of my own curiosity, I've not been to Singapore in almost like 5, 6 years.
2018 we
Yeah,
were there.
2018 when we
Yeah,
were
for
there.
Oh,
work.
What does the matcha scene look like right now in Singapore? Like, do you see that very frequently in coffee shops, or do you have like matcha specialty shop in Singapore as well?
now there are two specialty matcha shops in Singapore. There are major brands called Matchaya, which is basically another name for matcha house, and
Okay.
also Vala, Hvala. So these two are the most major brands, and they are always competing with each other in terms of locations and popping up here and there with supposedly major investments from investors. They have been around in Singapore for probably maybe 7 or 10 years. Yeah, and in recent years, the popularity of matcha is growing quite a lot. So even like for example, Japanese festival related events in Singapore, there will be pop-ups serving matcha gelatos, there will be pop-up serving like matcha drinks, and there is an increasing demand for matcha workshops in Singapore, up to corporate events as well. And even as you go to more and more cafes, you will start to see matcha being offered as an option in drinks. And also, I would say that when you ask almost anybody, like, do you like matcha? And they'll most probably say yes. But as for
Wow.
whether they are like really Ushucha matcha drinkers, I mean, that's another thing. I think quite a lot of them in Singapore right now, they still prefer like the more robust flavor profile for matcha. So like the more bitter, slightly astringent. So long there's some maybe grassiness or vegetable or slight umami coming out, that would be considered a good matcha. And I think Singaporeans currently they still enjoy their matcha in a form of bakes or confectionaries. Like for example, like matcha bake boxes. I just received one today. They will make matcha terrines, matcha shoe puffs, matcha madeleines, things like that. So it
Interesting.
it almost gets sold out immediately
Oh,
when
Wow.
we launch it. So yeah, the demand for this is quite high. And as a matcha like fan in Singapore, like maybe 8 or 10 years ago, I would say that it's increasing in popularity. So that's also what encourages me to set out to do this business because I mean, to be honest, I'm a little bit scared because I'm not sure all the investments that I put in so far will pay off. But from what I'm seeing, like it's getting more popular in Singapore. Yeah.
Curious, because Singapore is such a diverse place. You have like a large Chinese population, South Asian, Malay, probably a lot of foreign expats as well. Do you notice any demographic segmentation based
mm,
on matcha interest in Singapore? Or is it just seem to be everyone?
I think, at least from my circle and from what I've heard from other business owners who are in the industry, I would say most of the matcha consumers are Singaporean Chinese, and then you have like a small percentage who are Singaporean Malays. But other than that, I haven't really encountered like other matcha fans of other ethnicity, which I'm sure there are. It's just that probably I haven't met them yet.
I know we were doing some work in India 2 years ago, and I was just recently back in Delhi for a little while, and I was searching to see if there was any matcha scene at all, and we didn't see any. So it was
Probably the chai drinking culture is too
maybe,
strong.
yeah, too strong.
Yeah,
Maybe.
chai is pretty big too. Singapore. I mean, not as big as matcha, but chai is picking up popularity as well.
Interesting. That's cool. So across your social media platforms, you talk a lot about intentional learning and your sort of learning journey. So what are some of the principles that you've discovered in making a better cup of matcha as you've improved your own tea practice over the years? And as your preference has drifted more and more towards these umami heavy, like much more premium ceremonial grade profile or offerings.
So, since for most consumers in the world, we do not practice traditional tea ceremonies, all this that I'm sharing will be based on my own interpretation of how like a modern matcha drinker might be in today's society. You can call me somewhat of an urasenke style matcha practitioner because I tend to enjoy the smooth matcha foam, and I relish in how smooth and how it plays with the light, and I would swirl the foam around. So it's really satisfying for me. Though I also enjoy using my dark colored soot bamboo, kind of like susudake bamboo chasen to whisk my matcha.
Nice.
So that's in a way unlike urasenke, which uses like the white bamboo to whisk. So it's kind of like a mix of both, and that's why I say that I don't really belong to any traditional tea ceremony ritual. But of course, one of the main philosophy that I think is important is that it's important to find your own routine. Like from washing your teawares to rinsing the teawares with hot water to like drying your teaware and making tea and cleaning up process, all of these steps, it's important to find your own routine and try to incorporate that into your own daily routine. I would encourage everyone who's listening on a podcast to try to drink matcha every day because of like the health benefits and how it's so good at replacing coffee and essentially discover and find your own matcha making routine. There's really no strict ways to make matcha. So for myself, I normally would open my bag of matcha. I would take a few good sniffs at the matcha powder, and sometimes I would take my chashuku and then I would eat the powder raw.
Really
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
So um, I I kind of feel that the best way to like the best proof of a good quality matcha is eating the powder raw. So I kind of like I'm quite extreme that way. And even before like I started Matsu Matcha, when I try all the samples, I would try to eat the powder raw first. So I overdose quite easily because I'm eating a lot of powder. Yeah. So after that, then I will warm the bowl. I would feel the warmth of the bowl on my face, and I would sieve the powder in, or I would shine the bowl against the sunlight to take a good look at the color of the powder to see like how fresh it is. And then I'll take a few good sniffs from the bowl, and then I'll make koicha, and then from the koicha, I will add in more water to make ushucha, like the normal matcha.
Oh,
So that's
cool.
like
With the leftover from the bowl that's still touching it.
yes. And I kind of I mean, from the start, I already put like 4 grams. That's like my normal matcha routine. And then I kind of like take 2 big sips of that koicha, and then I would make the leftover with matcha. And I think there will be left with like maybe 2.5 grams, which is just about right for ushucha. And the temperature of the water is really, really important as well. Like sometimes I would take just 5 minutes away to look at my phone, and like the water temperature can just like change quite drastically. And the quality of the foaming that I do when I whisk will be affected as well. So it's quite important to do things a little bit faster when we are just whisking the matcha. And also like the matcha powder that we purchase also matter in like the level of foaming that we can get to make that perfect bowl of matcha, at least for that perfect foaming. I put it on my IG reels yesterday that from my knowledge, that there are probably about 7,500 to about 10,000 stone mills in the whole of Japan, um, from some research. And that means that, not all matcha powder are ground equally at like 40 grams per hour. So the rest of it, so this is equivalent to about, I guess, maybe 15% of the entire matcha supply in Japan. Like maybe the other 85% could be using ball milling at maybe 10 kg per hour. I'm not sure, but probably you guys have more clear information on this, but this is just what I know.
We
Yeah.
were saw that on your Instagram. We were actually wondering. That was the first time I'd ever heard any statistic about the number of ishiusus that there were in Japan. So that information is very new to us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool statistic.
Yeah, that statistics came from a book. So I would say that it's somewhat reliable, but it's a little bit dated. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I would say that it's estimated, because I'm not sure what's the number of issue now in Japan. Yeah. Yeah. So I would say that sieving your matcha before whisking is also like super important, because without sieving that, then there would be clumps at the bottom of the bowl. And also warming the chasen before use would really help in preventing breakage for the chasen as well. And I think one last thing is that very, very important to me is that I truly believe that our inner scape will reflect onto the quality of the matcha that we brew and we make. So every time I make my matcha, I try to ensure that my mind is quiet, my mind isn't racing, and I'm mindful of every movement and the surroundings as well. Once I'm calm, I think that my bowl of matcha becomes better and more enjoyable.
That's great.
Yeah. I do a similar thing in my own tea practice too. It's a great excuse to really take the time to indulge in a moment of presence.
Very therapeutical.
Yeah. So that's why, like, for my tagline for Matsu Matcha, I've decided on this tagline, which isn't really released yet, but it's gonna be called like "Take a moment for yourself," and I think that's really important, like for every day.
For sure. Yeah, love it. And the technique of koicha then to usecha is very interesting. I've never heard of anyone doing that in their personal practice. But
I can totally see that.
I have seen it
work.
in, this is about 10 years ago. I was attending a Urasenke Robi Rocky festival ceremony session, and they made a really, really high-end bowl of koicha. And I remember the event organizers saying, we're actually going to take the leftover bits of this bowl and make an usacha because it was such a special matcha, and they didn't want to waste it. But it never occurred to me to do that in my own practice, because you really get a lot more sensory information. You can experience the tea plain and very concentrated, and then with foam and in a more light way. It's I need to include that part of my practice.
It's a good sensory trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, I tend to extract as much umami flavors as I can, like from the matcha. So I kind of feel that like taking a good sniff of the matcha powder, even like eating the powder raw, making it into koicha and then ushicha is like the full suite of the matcha umami flavor profile.
Yeah, you really get to know the tea in a way that you couldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really cool.
So I kind of like do that. Like, I mean, maybe I'm just greedy.
Very cool. So, Brian, so as you are going to start your new journey, Matsu Matcha, like, what's your sourcing philosophy? Like, where do you source your tea from, and what would you consider to be a part of your portfolio?
Yeah, so Matsu Matcha is positioned to be a premium brand in Singapore that serves only premium level matcha powder compared to what is currently available in the Singapore market right now. So it is created to fill that gap, that market gap. I mean, before competitors catch up, which I'm sure they can easily catch up because they have the distribution network and they have the retail stores, I would just need to make sure that my brand is being known locally. So I'm trying my best to do that right now by building my own matcha community. And I think what's helping me is that because of the fact that I was from the community in the first place locally. So that can allow me to penetrate the local market a little bit more easier. One of the mission that I have for the brand is really to elevate the Singapore matcha scene with way higher quality matcha. Like right now, I do feel that the margins that competitors are taking is really a lot based on my best guess on their cost price. I mean, the fact that I do not have a retail store or tea house maybe just yet, I am able to kind of like eat into my own supposed margins and hopefully run the business in a sustainable manner while providing really high quality matcha for the Singapore market. So, I mean, just in comparison to our neighbor, like in Thailand, right? Thailand has such high quality matcha everywhere, and the culture there is like it's either coffee or matcha. Like they would ask, would you want coffee or would you want matcha? And it's come to that adoption. So I kind of feel that it would be good that we can have something like this in Singapore as well, and at the same time serve matcha that is healthy, at the same time that is delicious. Yeah, I just hope that Matsu Matcha can work and I will be able to make it sustainable and introduce matcha, like really high quality matcha to Singapore fans at a kind of acceptable price point because premium is definitely expensive, right? But I kind of hope to lower that to make it acceptable for the market. So that is in a way the mission for the brand. And the philosophy of course will be to introduce high quality matcha. So in all of currently we have three matcha products right now called Matsu, Take, and Ume. So pine trees and bamboo and plum. And basically, they are all 100% handpicked only. And they're all stone milled at 40 grams per hour. And for Matsu and Take, they are competition grade level infused, which means that they're not fully competition grade because that would be definitely too expensive for the market to adopt at this current stage right now of the current market maturity. So it's infused in. And both Take and Matsu only uses Asahi and Samidori cultivars. So I try to introduce a much higher quality and rare matcha, if you say so, like to the market. Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. So, Brian, you mentioned about you as the owner of this digital marketing company. How do you think about targeting and positioning for Matsu Matcha in terms of your years of experience already in the digital marketing world?
So Matsu Matcha is a pretty niche, I would say, a pretty niche kind of company in the industry, I would say, because number one, it only serves matcha powder. And number two, currently it is only an e-commerce store. And number three, it only serves the premium segment of matcha drinkers in Singapore. So I kind of think that being niche and being very deep in the segment makes it easier to penetrate the market than a generic matcha brand. Because to be honest, there are multiple matcha brands right now in Singapore that are kind of generic and serving multiple other kinds of teas as well. But when they don't double down in a particular niche, it makes it harder to be memorable to consumers. They would think of you as probably kind of like you offer a lot of things and stuff, but it becomes very forgettable as well. So that was like the number one principle that I have when I wanted to create a brand, to make it memorable and also to create like a strong branding around Matsu Matcha. And as I mentioned, like my specialty and advantage is that I started off as a member of the matcha fan community. So I'm already like connected with a number of matcha fans locally because I used to share a lot of matcha information, like maybe which are my top matcha brands and things like that. And then the next advantage is that for an e-commerce store, digital marketing efforts like email marketing and digital advertising is really, really important. So having worked with dozens of B2C e-commerce brands that maybe generates maybe seven figures a year and things like that, I have found a somewhat winning formula for maximizing the ROAS. For the non-industry practitioners, it just means revenue on advertising spend, which is for every dollar of advertising spend, how many dollars does it create for you? So I have created before 10x, maybe even on normal months, 7 to 8x, which means that my clients give me $1 and I create $8 of revenue for them. So definitely there are profitability over there. And my recommendation for them would be to spend as much as you can because it's pure profits. So although I have achieved such results for some of my clients, however, I'm still a little bit scared when it comes to my own brand because it's just a different ballgame altogether. So it doesn't mean that I will be able to perform for my own brand. So I guess I have to wish myself best of luck, like for that.
We wish you best of luck
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it's like the algorithm for Meta and for Google is like a black box, and you have to season the pixel and train the machine and make the machine learn in order to get like good performance. But once you're on track, then you're pretty on track. Yeah, so I would also think that the key to running a successful digital advertising campaign is to think in terms of like first principles and to have like a thoughtful customer funnel strategy. I
Mm-hmm.
normally start off with clients, for example, like which are the available first party data that they have, and then I start to work from there. And then I would create campaigns that would help to build more data points, and then we'll branch out the campaigns, and then we will experiment, and then we will weed out. We will kind of like kill off all the lower performing campaigns, and then we'll double down on the high performing ones, and that's kind of how we get like a diverse group of campaigns that can help to hedge against like any ups and downs in the machine learning, kind of generate a stable ROAS. It's similar to investment portfolio strategy, I guess.
Yeah,
A little bit.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah.
so that's a very technical part.
Interesting. Do you tend to funnel all of your traffic onto? I would assume that maybe in the future you will have like a website for your online shop,
Yes.
or to a major social platform media like the Instagram page. Like, what would you recommend, or what's your thinking about this, like funneling traffic?
Yeah. So let's just assume that number one, you are going to target on the website and also on Instagram, right?
Mhm.
I think firstly we have to. I mean, I'll explain this concept about what is rented data. So this is interesting because when it comes to meta targeting settings, we are only able to target people who have done a particular action or call to action in the past 180 days. So say for
Oh,
example, we were to run a campaign that brings in followers for your Instagram page. Or say we were to run a campaign that retargets people who engaged with your IG page before or who have DM you before. And it's also one of the reasons why you will see people running campaigns that say, please DM me for more information. That's because they're trying to capture that data for retargeting later on. However, this data will only be present in your system for 180 days. So after that, say for example, you were to turn off your campaign for 180 days, then you kind of lose that data, right? So
mm,
that is something that we have to be aware when we are running campaigns, and especially when we turn off and on campaigns. So of course, the best way to run a campaign would be to spread out your budget and then to run evergreen and don't ever stop them. I mean, it works in
oh,
Meta's.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it naturally works in Meta's best interest that they can get the most advertising spend from advertisers. So the actual best way to actually do a digital advertising campaign will be to collect their email addresses, of course, with the right PDPA policies and regulations in place. Once you have their email addresses, then you can retarget them through email marketing. And because it's email marketing, there are literally no regulations for that. So you can write however you want. You don't have to care about like meta regulations when you run your ad copies or things like that. I mean, for our industry, there is nothing really to be concerned about because it's just like B2C and it's consumer products. But for other industries, like getting their email addresses are very, very important. And I would say these are permanent assets to your company that can help in machine learning. In Meta, there is a setting that we can actually upload customers' email addresses. Of course, only when they opt in into marketing comms, I'll be able to do that. And so when you do that, it helps Meta to recognize this group of audiences and create lookalike audiences of those. And so then you can reach out to people who are like them and to acquire them as a customer. So that is what I would say a more permanent like data as compared to like a rented data
Mm.
as you would. So back to your
Fascinating.
question.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
sorry.
for that like master class. That was
This
Yeah.
this
this is a new world to us.
Quite
It's,
impressive.
Sorry, this podcast has become like a digital advertising kind of podcast. But yeah, back to the
well, we
question
like to
about
explore all aspects of matcha, and
I'm sure that our listeners will find it quite useful.
yeah, it's definitely important to understand like where we are spending our money on when we try to acquire customers, right? And since there are so many practitioners listening to this podcast right now. So back to the question of like, is it better to run a campaign to direct to your Instagram page or your website? I would say that it is most important to run to your website.
Mm.
Because there are multiple things that you can do when you run them to your website as compared to your Instagram. So I'm going to list a few examples, and one of it is actually because when you run campaigns to your Instagram page, it basically just get them to be aware of your page, but it does not necessarily convert them into a consumer immediately. And I think for a consumer product, it is mainly induce demand with a rather short sales cycle. So we can actually induce that demand and convert them directly to customers in quite a shorter period of time as compared to like a B2B SaaS kind of solution, long sales cycle kind of stuff. So with website targeting, we are able to tell the pixel on Meta to optimize towards landing page views, which means to scroll your page and to view the content and wait for the page to finish loading and kind of like to view your content. So we're able to optimize towards that. We are also able to optimize towards direct purchases on your platform, kind of like Shopify. And we are also able to retarget people who are at the top X percentile who have spent the most time on your website, and to retarget them to come back to buy and exclude people who have not bought before. So then you would be creating a funnel, retargeting people who have been to your site, but then they did not purchase from you. You would also realize that when you do shopping on websites and you add it to cart, but you did not buy the item, then maybe 1 week later, you realize that you have an email coming in that says that we missed you. Here's like a 5% off. You left something with us. So that is part of a add to cart drop off retargeting strategy. And by running traffic to your website, you're able to do that.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
Wow.
Can you use those type of insights to kind of find out what people like from a matcha products perspective? Like say you have like, I don't know, 20 or 100 SKUs of matcha. I don't think we'll ever have that many when we launch, but you can probably use it for some portfolio rationalization to
Yes,
decide
that
what to keep
definitely.
or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So since we are already so far off deep into the digital advertising topic, I will touch on one more stuff, which is cross-selling. So actually, you're able to retarget people who have purchased a particular set of products from you and retarget them to buy another set of product. So say, for example, people who have bought the Sanko ceremonial bowl, but you exclude people like you can exclude people who maybe did not visit a web page or people who did not buy your other products, and then you show them an ad through maximize reach settings to maximize the reach for them. So you pay less per click because it's for reach and it's for awareness. But since they already know your brand, then just a reach would do to let them know. You can serve them an ad that sells your other products that are not the Sanko bowl.
Okay. Interesting.
And that's like cross-selling. The other way you can do is to segment your customer data point as well. Say for example, you have maybe a list of 1,000 customers, and then you probably want to segment the top spenders from there. And you may want to use like the data point to get lookalike audiences to find more top spenders.
Okay. Fascinating.
Very cool.
Yeah. There's no way Matsu Matcha won't be successful. I think when you combine these two worlds, because it's
very, very, you're on a
Thank you.
great trajectory.
No, I really hope so. I kind of like get myself. But that's also like one reason why I wanted to start Matsu Matcha, because of the knowledge that I have in digital advertising and also in like the matcha as a product. I kind of feel that it would be a very wasted opportunity should I not pursue this and try it for myself. Because should I succeed in this, then it's the best testimony that I can get because it's a proven thing, right? But should I fail, then it will be it will be very. So it works both ways.
Worst case scenario, you have a
new data point.
new data points and a giant pile of high quality matcha for you to consume.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Where do you draw inspiration from as a founder, both on the digital advertising side and that strategy, as well as on the matcha brand and the whole the philosophical underpinnings behind like why people like matcha,
lifestyle?
Like where do you draw inspiration from?
Yeah, so like inspiration wise, I think that I mean from the start, I enjoy the process of creation, and much more so when it's a new brand and it's something that I love, which is matcha. And I would say that the inspiration is actually drawn from many different areas, like the past businesses that I've ran before, the past like entrepreneurial stuff that I've done, and also the many entrepreneurs that I've met along the way, be it my clients or just friends who are running businesses. So I can't really pin it to any particular source of inspiration. Rather, I normally would tend to think in first principles and to see what would work best based on the cards that I have on hand right now. And I would say that based on my experience in Method B, which is my digital advertising agency, it's really important to be scrappy and kind of like don't be perfect because otherwise it probably wouldn't launch. And I mean, moving fast is better than moving perfectly. And I kind of just take general lessons from entrepreneurship. But of course, it's my first foray in B2C. I would say profitability calculations are very important, and we have to have some contingency plan in place. And also, like having a plan for market penetration is super important, and as well as knowing the product firsthand. So I do know that there are some business owners out there who sell products, but they do not know the product very well, and they already start to sell them. And I think it might not be. I mean, personally, I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that I don't understand my product and I try to sell it to consumers. So for me, I whatever I do, and I've heard from another good friend of mine who's like an eight-figure entrepreneur as well. He told me that whatever decisions that he make in business, he wants to make sure that he's able to sleep soundly at night. And that resonates a lot with me as well, that no matter what decision I do, I just have to I have to be able to approve it with full conscience. And then of course being a fan of the product and being a super user of the product helps a lot. And also of course to kind of just enjoy the process and kind of limit the startup capital. I think you kind of know what I mean. Because R&D is a lot of money. Yeah, and then only
Yes, it is.
and only when we see some sense of profitability do we try to scale from there. Yeah.
Are you planning to just stay within Singapore? Are you going to expand to the rest of Southeast Asia or even further? Or is it just going to focus on Singapore for now?
At the very start, I would say just in Singapore for now. But because I do have some fans from the page that are from overseas as well who mentioned that they would like to try my matcha. Thank you so much. I do intend to maybe ship in a region too. But again, it is secondary right now. I think I want to better serve the Singapore market and to see whether am I able to maximize the demand here. And when I have the capacity to do so, which I hope I will, or maybe not, because then it'll be a good problem to expand towards a region.
Oh, you can add us to the list of people who are interested in your matcha outside of Singapore. Yeah. Looks amazing in the pictures, and especially the packaging. I really like the stories that you do with the whole process of coming up with the packaging and the aesthetics and the printing. I don't know. It's some like nice behind the scenes that you don't usually get from matcha brands. So
yeah, it makes consumer feel very relatable and very close to the brand.
Yeah. And really every detail, like you can really feel the intention in the brand and the way that was communicated. It's like if that like little thing is so well considered, then you think everything else must be so well considered too.
Yeah, intentionality.
Yeah, that was like the whole point of it, and I think you summarized it very, very well. So thank you so much because I really spent a lot of time trying to document and share the process. And I kind of feel that because I'm a solo founder in this, so I kind of feel quite lonely as well. I try to connect with the community and ask them like, what do you think about this? And some of them actually edited my designs. They sent it back to me, and some of them actually gave very good feedback. Like one of it was that can we make the labels more easily readable, like more legible? Can we make the Matsu emblem, which is a pine tree emblem, make it more prominent, like at the top of the can? Yeah, so there is a lot of intention to the whole design down to the logo itself. Maybe since we're at the logo, maybe I'll just take this opportunity to share that the logo for Matsu Matcha is kind of like it's a pine tree motif, but then there is a golden color stroke below. And that golden color stroke actually signifies the sun rays passing through the pine tree. And I've always been very inspired by like pine trees, Japanese pine trees in tea gardens because I think like it's a really beautiful thing to be able to enjoy your bowl of matcha and then to enjoy like a bonsai pine tree or like a whole planted tree like in the garden. It's a real luxury.
Yeah, you can definitely get like those traditional tea house vibes in the motifs through that abstraction. At least I definitely do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really shines through.
Thank you so much
but
for sharing all these
Yeah,
information.
and all the extra stuff. That was
That was
you really opened our minds that we have a lot of research to do
yeah,
now.
yeah, like the
Quite cool.
advertising funnel strategy kind of stuff. That was like totally unprepared, but I'm just happy to share. Yeah.
We could tell it came very natural.
Yeah, definitely years of experience.
Yeah. Because by nature I'm just like a consultant and yeah, I just share the stuff.
Thanks so much, Brian. I think that's all we have time for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or giving it 5 stars. It really helps boost our visibility across the distribution platforms for podcasts. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
See
Thanks
you
so
in
much.
the future.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks.